you want to kind of tick off every event that you ever play in, and I think Neil's one that he likes to win a tournament every season.
There was a time when Judd Trump was known more for his swagger than his silverware, a time when his walk into the arena felt like a performance. His spiked hair and diamond shine shoes drawing almost as much attention as his cue. He was the new face of snooker's future, fast, fearless, and utterly unpredictable. But behind the glamour, behind the flash and fireworks, was a player still learning what it truly meant to win. This is the story of how Judd Trump transformed from a raw, crowd-pleasing showman into one of the most complete champions the game has ever seen. From a very young age, Judd was different. Born in Bristol in 1989, his talent was obvious from the very moment he picked up a cue. He spent his childhood in snooker clubs, barely tall enough to see over the table, yet capable of beating adults twice his age. At 10 years old, he was already turning heads in junior events. At 11, he made his first century break. And at 14, he became the youngest player ever to make a competitive 147, a record that still feels extraordinary today. Even then, the whispers had started. Future world champion, the next Ronnie, the boy genius. Everyone could see it coming. Everyone except perhaps Judd himself, who simply wanted to play. By his mid-teens, Trump had joined the professional tour, but turning raw ability into results is another matter entirely. He was up against hardened veterans, tacticians like Mark Selby, granite defenders like John Higgins, and clinical finishers like Neil Robertson. Judd had the flair, but not yet the control. He could blow opponents away one day and self-destruct the next. Still, there was something electric about him. When Judd was on the table, people paid attention. His cue action was smooth and quick, his pots audacious, his positional play instinctive. He played the game with a sense of freedom rarely seen at the top level. Every frame felt like an invitation to watch something special. Then came the year that first made people believe. That spring, in Beijing, Judd stormed through the China Open, beating a stacked field and defeating Mark Selby 10-8 in the final to claim his first ranking title. It was stylish, fearless snooker. He went for everything, and it all went in. 2 weeks later, he carried that form into the World Championship at Sheffield's Crucible Theatre. The world watched as this fearless 21-year-old tore through the tournament. He beat Martin Gould, then Graham Dott, then Neil Robertson, the defending champion. Every match was a fireworks display of long pots, fast frames, and impossible breaks. When he reached the final against John Higgins, it felt like the dawn of a new era. He ultimately lost 18-15, but he made his mark. The crowd adored him. His interviews were cheeky, confident, and even a little cocky. Snooker suddenly had a rock star again, someone who made the sport look fun. But behind the charm and natural flair, Judd knew the truth. The World Championship final exposed what he lacked: composure, tactics, experience. For the next several years, that gap haunted him. Between 2012 and 2018, Judd picked up trophies: the UK Championship, the Australian Open, the European Masters, but inconsistency lingered. He could blow away opponents one tournament and fall early the next. Critics started questioning whether he'd ever fulfill his potential. His attacking instincts, once praised, were now being labelled reckless. He would go for the impossible shot when a safety would do. He'd thrill the audience, but frustrate his coaches. He's entertaining, they said, but not disciplined enough to be dominant. At times, Judd seemed caught between two versions of himself: the natural showman who played by instinct, and the maturing competitor who knew he needed to think his way to victory. Something had to change. The turning point came quietly. No dramatic announcement, no grand reinvention, just gradual grinding shift. Around 2017 and 2018, Judd began to reevaluate everything: his mindset, his work ethic, even his lifestyle. He started practicing harder than ever before. He worked on safety play. He learned to value patience, that sometimes the best shot was the one not taken. Off the table, his brother Jack became his manager, a calming influence who helped him focus on preparation rather than publicity. Judd began approaching tournaments with more purpose, less chaos. He stopped treating snooker as a stage performance and began treating it as a craft. And when all those pieces finally clicked into place, Judd Trump became unstoppable. The 2018-19 season changed everything. He began the campaign with solid performances, but it was the Masters that announced his rebirth. Facing Ronnie O'Sullivan, his childhood hero, in the final, Trump played the match of his life. Frame after frame, he outpotted, outthought, and outclassed the greatest natural talent the game has ever seen. He won 10-4 and in doing so claimed his first Triple Crown title. The celebration said it all, a mix of joy, relief, and quiet vindication. This was no longer the flashy prodigy. This was a complete world-class player. But he wasn't finished. A few months later, Trump arrived at the Crucible for the 2019 World Championship with something he'd never had before: calm confidence. He wasn't chasing validation anymore. He knew he could win. His run through that tournament was extraordinary. He beat Thepchaiya Unno, Ding Junhui, Stephen Maguire, and then Gary Wilson to reach the final. Waiting for him once again was John Higgins, the same man who'd beaten him in 2011. This time, there was no stopping him. From the opening frames, Trump was sensational. Long pots flew in, century after century rolled off his cue, and his safety game, once his weakness, stood toe-to-toe with one of the best tacticians in the sport. He produced 7 century breaks in the final alone, a record at the time. By the final session, the result was inevitable. Judd Trump won 18-9, lifting the World Championship trophy for the first time. It wasn't just a victory, it was redemption. The boy who had once been too flashy, too impatient, too wild, had finally conquered the biggest stage of them all. And perhaps most importantly, he'd done it on his terms. He hadn't abandoned his attacking style, he redefined it. He still played the big shots, but now he picked his moments. He still thrilled the crowd, but now he controlled the match. That's what separated Judd Trump, the showman, from Judd Trump, the champion. Over the next 2 seasons, Trump entered a new stratosphere. Between 2019 and 2021, he won 11 ranking titles, a record-breaking run that cemented his dominance. He claimed everything: the Northern Ireland Open, the English Open, the Gibraltar Open, the Players' Championship. He was winning so often that defeat felt like a surprise. He ended the 2019-20 season with 6 ranking titles, the most any player had ever won in a single campaign. His consistency was staggering. He was potting better than ever, defending better than ever, and mentally tougher than anyone else on tour. For the first time, Judd Trump wasn't just the crowd favorite, he was the benchmark. What made this phase of his career special wasn't only the trophies, but how he carried himself. He started showing respect for the sport's history, for its traditions, while still pushing its boundaries. He wanted snooker to appeal to a new generation, to be faster, livelier, more emotional. In interviews, he spoke about wanting to bring something different. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to make people excited to watch snooker again. And he succeeded. Crowds roared for him in ways that hadn't been heard since the prime of Ronnie O'Sullivan or Alex Higgins. Kids began turning up at clubs with spiked hair, mimicking his cue action. Judd Trump had become an icon, someone who made snooker cool again. But as always in sport, dominance never lasts forever. After the 2021 World Championship, where he fell short of reclaiming the title, the trophies came less frequently. The pandemic years disrupted the tour, and with that, Judd's rhythm faded slightly. He reached finals, he competed, but that invincible aura softened. New stars were emerging: Zhao Xintong, Yan Bingtao, Luca Brissell, players who in many ways had been inspired by Judd's attacking philosophy. The hunter had become the hunted. And yet, even through this newer chapter, something deeper had emerged in Judd Trump's character: maturity, perspective. He's spoken about learning to enjoy the game again and not being defined by one season or one title. He's focused on improving steadily, not chasing records for the sake of it. And as he's done so, he's found a new sense of balance, not just as a player, but as a person. In 2022, he reached another World Championship final, this time against Ronnie O'Sullivan. It was a symbolic moment. The showman who grew up idolizing Ronnie, now standing across from him as an equal. Judd fought bravely, but O'Sullivan's brilliance that fortnight was too much. Still, their post-match embrace said everything: mutual respect, one generation acknowledging another. Ronnie called Judd the torchbearer of the modern game. Coming from the sport's greatest player, it was the ultimate compliment. What makes Judd's transformation so compelling isn't that he changed who he was, it's that he evolved while staying true to himself. He never became a safety-first grinder or a cautious tactician. He simply added layers to his game. He learned when to attack, when to defend, and how to win when not playing his best. That balance, that ability to blend style and substance, is what defines greatness. Today, Judd Trump stands as one of the most successful players of his generation. Over 25 ranking titles, a triple crown, a place among the sport's elite. But beyond the statistics, his legacy is something bigger. He redefined what a snooker star could look like in the 21st century. He brought energy to a sport that can sometimes feel slow. He reminded fans that snooker could be thrilling, emotional, unpredictable. And he showed young players that being yourself, playing your natural game, can still lead to greatness if you're willing to do the hard work behind it. For Judd, the transformation is ongoing. He's still chasing more world titles, still hungry, still searching for that perfect balance between instinct and discipline. But even if he never wins another major, his place in the game's story is already secure. Because Judd Trump's journey is more than a tale of trophies. It's a lesson in growth, in learning that flair without focus fades quickly, and that discipline without passion can make you forget why you started in the first place. He learned to combine both. When he walks into an arena now, there's still that swagger, but it's quieter, more deliberate. The flash is still there, but behind it lies steel. He's no longer the kid trying to prove he belongs. He's the man who's already done it and keeps doing it because he loves the game that made him who he is. The boy from Bristol who dreamed of being the best became just that. Not by pretending to be someone else, but by becoming the fullest version of himself. Judd Trump's story isn't just about snooker, it's about transformation, the evolution from talent to mastery, from noise to focus, from showman to champion. And when the lights dim, the cameras fade and the crowd's cheers settle into silence, one truth remains. He didn't just play the game, he changed it.